If you need unlimited domination, clutch time, or anything else grinded, make sure you hit up RoseNBA on Twitter for quick, safe, and reliable grinding services. Yo, what is good, YouTube, and welcome back to another JC2K video. In today's video, we're doing episode number 10 of I Build Your Teams, the series where I build my viewers' teams into the best teams possible for my team unlimited and or competitive play based on how much MT they currently have and what their squad is looking like. Before we hop into the video, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 8,000 subscriber mark on the channel. I upload every single day. I would really appreciate your support if you haven't already, if you do subscribe. Without further ado, let's hop right into it. First team today comes in from RCA the Great. Some of y'all may know RCA. Definitely kind of a legend in the competitive community to a certain extent. He's been around for a while, also makes YouTube videos, so make sure y'all go show him some love on his YouTube channel. It's RCA the Great as well. He's been a good player for a long time, well known in the community, but cool to have him submit his team. But regardless, he's got an interesting squad, and I know he kind of plays an unorthodox play style to a certain extent. He's one of the few, I would say, in the competitive community who have kind of made a living off of playing very unorthodox over the last few years, but he's got Harden, Artest, and then Gary, Ricky Davis as his backcourts in his starting and bench lineups, and I like this a lot. He's great with Harden as well, so I'm definitely gonna, instead of with a lot of teams recommending that you don't play Harden, I think Harden plays really well for him in the way that he plays and the way that he uses Harden especially. So I'm totally cool with both of these backcourts. Pippen and Mikal is solid. Bron and Mikal, or Pippen and Mikal Bridges, I should say, and then Bron and Kevin McHale as your 3s and 4s is also solid, and then Kareem and Joel as your 5s I like as well. He says he's waiting on Giannis. For me personally, I might try to get a guy like Kevin Garnett. That's kind of a recommendation. I just think I don't love Embiid personally. This is just my opinion. I think you could slide a guy like KG in at the backup 4 and then have Kevin McHale as your backup 5, and I think that might give you a little bit more athleticism and versatility in terms of your lineup, maybe a little more defense as well. That's just my opinion. I don't dislike this team by any means, though. I think it's really, really solid. I like the way you've done it, and I know you like your own play style and play a little bit differently, but for me, I just think Kevin Garnett, I should say, would be a great guy to pick up and selling Embiid. Probably lose a little bit of MT because KG is more expensive than Embiid, but I think that would be the main upgrade that I'd be trying to change out just for me personally, the way that I like to play. And yeah, I like this squad a lot. Definitely a good team all the way around. Second team today comes in from boards. He's got 500 KMT. He's got D Rose, D Mitch, Iggy, Danny Green, Jeremy Sohan, Ben Mathurin, Jermaine Big Z, Robert Ory, and Kareem. So he's got like a very, very budget team. And I like, honestly, the fact that we got some budget squads in today's videos. We've got a couple more. But this team, you got some pieces that I definitely think you would keep, and then some pieces that I personally would be looking to change. So I'm actually going to pull up 2KDB for this team and for a couple of others, more so a little bit more budget squads, just to kind of rebuild your team a little bit more. And you've got D Rose and Donovan. I would honestly keep both D Rose and Donovan. I think they're free PGs and they're still very good PGs. I would keep both of those guys in your lineup. I would also keep Andre Iguodala, just because he's an amazing defensive card, and I might throw a guy like Lance Stevenson in at the 2, who's also cheap and very effective. As your 3s, you could probably go, maybe you throw Iggy at one of your 3s and then put RJ Barrett at the 2, because I think Iggy gives you a little bit more versatility defensively. And I'm trying to think of a starting 3, and my brain is not working properly right now. So maybe you go Iggy at the starting 3, and I don't know why I can't think of a 3 right now. I don't think I would keep Sohan or Mathurin, though. Jermaine and Big Z, I'm totally cool with keeping, but I think we throw them at the bench as your bench 4 and 5. And then you have, you have the MT to make a couple of bigger upgrades if you want to. I don't really think that's necessary, but at the center position, I'd probably go Jared Allen. Honestly, he and Big Z are pretty much interchangeable. They did do different things for you, but one of those two guys as your center would be good, or having both those guys as your center, start whoever you prefer, and then bring whoever you prefer, or whoever else you like off the bench. At the 4, maybe you go Carmelo's more of the offensive card. You could go Amari Stoudemire, more defensive. You could pay more MT for a guy like Kevin Garnett if you wanted to. And then at your 3, right now I can't think of a really good budget 3 to run. I'm not entirely sure who that guy would be for your squad, to be completely honest. You could go with a guy like Ben Simmons, but he's just not going to play much defense, and that's going to be the main issue with a guy like Ben Simmons, is his lack of defense. And I don't know if I don't really know if there's that like elite level 3 in the game right now that you can run for a budget. So probably right now I just go with a guy like Ron Artest. Ron Artest, he's going to play defense. He's going to knock down open shots. And then at the 4, if you want to spend more MT, you go with a KG. If you want to spend less MT, you go with a Carmelo Anthony or an Amari Stoudemire, something like this. This team isn't going to cost you a ton of MT to build. You're not buying really anybody who's particularly expensive, which allows you to save your MT for future purchases, but gives you a better base for your squad than this team that you're starting with today. Coming into this third team, we got 1.5 mil. He wants a power forward recommendation other than Kevin Garnett. Kevin Garnett's the power forward that I recommend pretty much to everybody. I'll be completely honest. I will recommend swapping out. That's if you don't have Anthony Davis, which obviously you don't have AD. So, but I would recommend swapping out Artest for Ricky Davis. Ricky Davis is just a guy who can play make at such a high level at the off the bench. I mean, I'm running Ricky Davis as my backup 2. Jimmy is my starting 2 right now, just because I think he's that elite ball handler, primary ball handler, playmaker, kind of like Tim Thomas can be in your starting lineup. So I'd probably sell Artest and buy Ricky Davis. And then if you want a power forward upgrade, you know what I'm actually going to suggest is that you move Tim Thomas to the 4 and you put LeBron at the 3. Bring Kuzma off the bench to replace Jermaine. That's what I'm going to recommend. You go John Wall, Jimmy, LeBron, Tim Thomas, Kareem, and then off the bench you go D-Rose, Ricky Davis, Pippen, Kuzma, or Jermaine, whoever you prefer, and Hakeem off the bench. That's probably what I would go with personally with the amount of MT you have currently, because there aren't really that many elite auctionable power forwards right now besides Kevin Garnett, in my personal opinion, just the way that I like to play. But Tim is 6'10" and can play the power forward position at a super high level, so he's a guy that I would definitely recommend considering at that power forward if you're looking for an upgrade or a change at your power forward position. Fourth team comes in from Wayne. He's got 300K, trying to get Ricky Davis, another guy with a solid team, another guy with Tim Thomas and Kyle Kuzma, Kareem as his front court actually, but a guy, I mean, I like this team a lot, to be completely honest. I don't have any issues with this squad. You got Caruso and Russ trying to get Ricky Davis. If you get Ricky Davis, I would consider, you got Russ off the bench. He could be your primary ball handler. And then you could bring DeMar off the bench as your 2 and have Ricky Davis start at the 2. Or you could start DeMar still and bring Ricky Davis off the bench as a 2 if you still want that playmaker. This is the type of team that I don't think needs significant upgrades, to be completely honest. I would probably be pursuing Ricky Davis. I do think he's like the main guy that can really help out your squad. I'm not entirely sure how much he's going for because I didn't have to buy him. It looks like he's pretty darn expensive, probably close to 600K MT. So I don't know if right now he's the type of guy that you can really feasibly attain that would be worth it. So for right now, maybe you just stick with the lineup that you have, because I do think you honestly have a very, very good lineup. But once you could potentially get the price MT for Ricky Davis, you may want to consider making that move at some point. But I do like this team a lot. I think you got a really, really good base squad, and you got a lot of top end players like Tim, Kareem, Russell Westbrook. Caruso's an amazing budget PG, especially if you play him next to a guy who can handle the ball like Tim Thomas. I like this team a lot though, really, really do. And yeah, I don't think you need significant changes right now, especially with the MT that you're at currently. Now this team is a great squad, I feel like, for this video because it's a bit of a project team. We got Jaden Ivey, we got a bunch of these Shades of Diamond cards, we got Dwayne Wade, like a bunch of PGs off the bench, just a kind of a hodgepodge of teams, of players, if that makes sense. And I think this is the type of team that's a really, really good team to work on because you have no MT and you don't really have a team with a ton of players that are really, really good players. So what I typically recommend when I look at teams like this with players who are basically starting the game or new to the game is that they build a 5-man lineup so that they have a 3-man lineup that they can run in triple threat online and a 5-man lineup that they can run in clutch time online. And then you use that type of lineup to build up your team, especially when you are so limited on MT. So honestly, I would sell basically every single player on your team except for maybe Anthony Simons or Dennis Smith Jr. And then you can build something along these lines is the type of lineup that I personally would be trying to go to for. This may even be a little bit too expensive. And if this is out of your price range, potentially downgrade a guy like Artest to the Amethyst. Run one of those budget PGs, DSJ or Anthony Simons as your point guard. At the 4, you go with probably an Amari Stoudemire is a cheap budget 4. And then at the 5, you go with a guy like Jared Allen. If this is too much MT, you can downgrade further to other Amethyst options and things like that. But building yourself a 5-man lineup with guys that are usable online and are going to give you a solid squad is the type of team that you want to start with. And then you can bring Amethyst off the bench or things like that if you want. But it's going to give you a team that is capable of being used online. And not only that, you did say you are close to Russ. So once you get Russ, you don't really have to worry about that point guard position. That's going to save you MT. So then you can throw in a guy like Russell Westbrook here at the point guard position, and all of a sudden you have basically a free point guard who's still one of the best point guards in the game. And I think if you can build a team something along these lines, maybe even downgrading Lance or Artest or Amari, somebody like that, to an Amethyst if you need to. Maybe it's an Amethyst Robert Williams, or even the Amethyst version of Artest who's still going to play very solid defense. Lance Stevenson could be downgraded to one of the Amethyst 3-and-D shooting guards, like a guy like JJ Redick. Yeah, I think I really think this is the type of team that you should be focusing on building though right now, is a 5-man, because then you can play online, you can have a triple threat team and a clutch time team, and then you can start to build up your MT, build up your tokens, get more assets, and improve your squad overall. So that's what I'd be trying to do with that type of team. Now, second to last team today comes in from Danny. He's got about 500,000 MT, trying to decide what to do with the trophy cases. And yeah, Donovan Mitchell, D Rose, Jimmy, Eddie Jones. I love your twos. Scottie Pippen, Larry Johnson, KG, Kemp, Kareem, and Jermaine O'Neal. I like Jared Allen better than Jermaine O'Neal. Just my opinion. I might buy Jarrett over Jermaine because he's not that expensive and he's really, really good. Now he's trying to decide between AD and Dr. J. For me personally, it depends on if you're trying to play in qualifiers, because Dr. J in all likelihood will not be available by qualifiers at the pace that they're dropping centerpieces and legendary and elite franchise moments, especially this season. So for me, I would probably go AD if you're trying to play in qualifiers. If not, might as well stick with the West, or with the East, I should say, and get yourself Dr. J. So really, it kind of is up to you at that point what you want to do with your MT. With 500k MT as well, you could consider trying to buy a top tier center like a guy like Hakeem Abdul-Jabbar. Your twos are really good. I mean, you can consider Ricky Davis, but he's really not, I don't feel like a necessity, especially with 2 elite shooting guards already. And I don't mind Pippen and Larry Johnson whatsoever. If you did decide to go for AD though, if you're trying to get a player for quals, things like that, maybe you consider you're going to get a guy like Lane James Worthy, and then Worthy can come off your bench at either your 3 or your 4, depending on who you want to take out more, Larry Johnson or Sean Kemp. But for now, you have a really, really good base team, and I think mainly center is kind of the spot to be considering upgrading for this team. And yeah, for me, I would go AD if you're trying to play in quals, if you're trying to get the next Opal by qualifiers. If not, go Dr. J and stick with the East. Last team today comes in from Rafa. He's got 500 KMT, John Wall, D Rose, Artest, Latrell, Jason Tatum, Kawhi, Braun, Carmelo, KG, and Chris Bosh. This is the type of team that I feel like you have a lot of MT invested in guys who, while still good, are a tiny bit dated, especially Kawhi Leonard. I think he's too expensive, especially considering he's not that elite of a card. Latrell Sprewell can be changed for a Lance Stevenson, same price. He's a better card, in my opinion, Lance is. And outside of that, I think Jason Tatum's honestly quite good, and there isn't really that elite budget pack. I lied. I know what I would do with this team. I would sell Tatum. I'd move LeBron to the 3, KG to the 4, and Kareem at the 5. And then you have a starting lineup of John Wall, Ron Artest, LeBron, KG, and Kareem. Off the bench, you go D Rose, Lance Stevenson. I don't know who you throw at the 3, honestly. I'm still struggling. I don't know why I'm struggling for backup 3s in today's video. I'm not entirely sure. But if you have Scottie Pippen, if you got him from level 40 for season 1, definitely throw him in there, because I know a lot of people have that card and some people aren't using him for some reason at this point, but you could definitely throw him in there. Otherwise, maybe, I don't know. I would still be selling Tatum and Kawhi, and buying Kareem is still you're going to profit MT. So you have the MT to go buy one of the more expensive cards if you want, whether that be a guy like Ricky Davis, and then all of a sudden you play Ricky Davis at the 2, you bring Artest off the bench at the backup 3. You could consider something like that. I still like Melo at the 4, especially as a shooter. I like that a lot. And backup 5, I mean, you can keep Bosh if you want a guy who can shoot the ball. But on all honesty, Jared Allen, while not having quite as good of a jumper, is better at everything else. And he'd be the guy that I'd upgrade to, especially with him being a lot cheaper. So for now, I think you maybe consider Ricky Davis. You go John Wall, Ricky Davis, Braun, KG, and Kareem. And then off the bench, you go D Rose, Lance Stevenson, Ron Artest, Carmelo, and Jared Allen. That 10-man to me is kind of the best that you can do, in my opinion, with this squad. So yeah, that's going to do it for this video. If you did enjoy, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more 2K content very, very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace.